in a case seen as a test of Europe's ability to combat Islamic extremism through the courts. A Belgian judge on Wednesday ruled that Sharia4Belgium, the militant group accused of recruiting fighters for Syria, was a terrorist organization and sentenced the group's leader to 12 years in prison. The trial began in September in the port city of Antwerp and has drawn attention across Europe amid a debate about how to fight radicalization, particularly after gunmen killed 17 people last month in the Paris region. The principal defendant in the Belgian case, Fouad Belkacem, 32, the one-time petty criminal turned religious zealot who led Sharia4Belgium, has not been directly linked to any terrorist attacks. Defense lawyers argued that the organization merely aimed to provoke public opinion, comparing it to the dissident Russian punk rock group Pussy Riot and the radical Ukrainian feminist organization Femen. Continue reading the main story-related coverage. World Briefing, Belgium, man accused of threat close to parliament. Fed. 2, 2015 World Briefing, Belgium, for suspects detained in anti-terrorism sweep-in. 30, 2015 A jihadist pipeline in Brussels has made Belgium Europe's biggest per capita contributor of fighters to Syria. Belgium confronts the jihadist danger within January 24, 2015 policemen worked into a marked-out perimeter in Verviers, eastern Belgium, on Thursday. 2 suspects killed in gun battle in Belgian anti-terror raid January 15, 2015 but the criminal court in Antwerp dismissed these arguments in its verdict on Wednesday. It described Sharia4Belgium as a terrorist organization that helped recruit dozens of young Belgian Muslims as fighters for extremist groups in Syria that embrace an ultra-conservative strand of Islam known as Salafism. Mr. Belkacem, unlike many other defendants in the trial, never traveled to Syria to join the Islamic State or other militant groups. Yet Judge Luc Potargent of the Antwerp court described the defendant as the driving force behind Sharia4Belgium. Belkacem is responsible for the radicalization of young men to prepare them for Salafist combat, which has at its core no place for democratic values, Judge Potargent said in his decision, according to the news agency Agence France Presse. Sharia4Belgium recruited these young men for armed combat and organized their departure for Syria. In addition to Mr. Belkacem, 45 other defendants were accused of belonging to Sharia4Belgium, but only 8 of them were present in the courtroom. The others are either still fighting in Syria. 7 members of the group were sentenced to 3 to 5 years in prison. The court acquitted the mother who had been accused of providing money for her son to travel to Syria. A verdict was originally expected last month, but the proceedings were postponed after the attacks in Paris on the satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo and at a kosher supermarket. Sharia4Belgium, according to Peter van Oostijn, a Belgian researcher who has observed jihadists who travel to Syria, played an important role in turning Belgium into Europe's biggest source of jihadist fighters, as a proportion of the total population. Belgian authorities reported that around 350 citizens had gone to Syria by late last year, and that more than 70 had returned home. Mr. Oostijn estimated the number at closer to 450. Among the Belgians who fought in Syria is Abdelhamid Abaoudi, who is suspected of leading a thwarted plot to attack police officers across Belgium last month, in what authorities described as a major terrorist operation. The police carried out a series of raids last month on homes in the Molenbeek district of Brussels and in the eastern town of Verviers, where 2 suspected militants were killed. Please subscribe the video.